you don't actually believe that God himself is the moral standard. You believe in some kind of standard of goodness, and you believe simultaneously that God operates in accordance with that. But then when I point out to you all these instances where God does things that are outright depraved and atrocious, your response is, well, he must have had a good reason. But I sincerely doubt you would extend such favorable courtesy to anybody else who did things like that.
No, what I'm trying to get at is that like I haven't really like studied the Bible like that myself. That's why I said I've come like unprepared. Like trust me, I've read the Bible, but um I haven't like read like front to back, back to front, like fully read like maybe like if I were to like do deeper research and then come back to this, I think I'm sure I would have like a proper rebuttal for this, but um
Well,
that's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, Christians have been coming up with theodicies. Theodicies are theological arguments to explain why certain evil things apparently happen despite God's all that powerful and all good nature. Um, this is a response to the logical problem of evil, the Epicurean paradox, which is if God is willing to prevent evil but unable, then he's not all powerful. If God is unable to prevent, or if God is able to prevent evil but unwilling, then he's malevolent. If he's both able and willing, then why does evil exist? And if he's neither able nor willing, then why call him God? Okay. So the argument is basically if God has both the characteristic of omnipotence and the characteristic of omnibenevolence, being all good, things which are not good wouldn't logically exist because an all good being, by definition, would not impose or instantiate things that aren't good because the moment he does such a thing, he's no longer all good. It's a paradox. So
But
Christians have been coming up with excuses to get out of this forever, and I keep bringing up the Calvinists because they're immune to most of these arguments. They get out of it by just flatly saying there isn't evil. Nothing that happens is evil because it's all according to the will of God, no matter how vile or heinous the apparent act in the moment is, such as the example I gave earlier about little children who are sexually violated.
I mean, I would say that like yeah, obviously there's evil. Like I'm not stupid. Like obviously there's evil. But that's like the whole like and this is a very classic line that Christians use. But that's where free will comes in. Like I know like I was going to say that at some point. But it all boils down to free will that humans decide to make consciously. Like, oh, I'm going to kill like but God doesn't want to like yeah, I know he had done that in the Old Testament, but if we're talking about like today, like God doesn't really interfere with what you decide to choose. Like that's just how it is. Like
Well,
would
there's
you
a
want to do you appreciate free will? Like don't you like you don't want to be controlled?
it's an interesting question. If God is a paragon of moral righteousness and nothing he does is wrong or evil or bad, then no, I wouldn't have any problem being controlled by this entity. It would be a preferable state of affairs. Honestly,
Well,
like if I desire a state of affairs that is paradise, which is what most humans strive for, the closest thing that we can get to a utopia. That's like the whole incentive of heaven is that if you go to heaven, there's no more suffering or anguish. So ask yourself this question: do you have free will in heaven?
well that I don't know.
Well, there's only two options: yes or no. You agree with that?
I think you can be unsure.
Well, even if
Like
you don't know the answer, the only two possible answers are either yes or no. Do you agree?
well yeah.
Okay. So let's explore both options. If the answer is yes, and we do have free will in heaven, well then bingo, right out of the gate, we have an example of God being able to create such a state of affairs wherein people have the freedom to choose and there's still no evil or suffering. It's the whole point of heaven is there's no evil
Yeah,
or
but you're
suffering.
getting mixed up. Like we're on earth so we can choose if we want to go to heaven or hell and it
Well,
doesn't for heaven
that's
like if we're not having free will then like that's great like but that's because we decided not to like we
well,
decided
let me
you
ask you
know
another question. Avocado, did you choose to be born into this world?
no
So you never chose to become part of this experiment in the first place. So at least there is one thing that God thrust upon you without you making the decision to do so. Because of course you can't make choices prior to your own existence. So God has forced each and every single one of us to participate in this ridiculous paradigm wherein either we believe in him based on little to no evidence, or we suffer conscious eternal torment in fire. That doesn't seem like a really good ultimatum, right? Which is why there are annihilationists and universalists, because clearly an all-loving, all-good God would never orchestrate such a situation where the overwhelming majority of his creations would suffer eternal torment. Not to mention, like, eternal torment for finite transgressions is already a complete abomination of justice. What the hell could you possibly do in maybe 100 years of life that would warrant you being tormented for all of eternity as a punishment? Like, the whole point of punishment is, retribution or rehabilitation, right? To learn from your mistakes. What is there to learn in a never-ending torture chamber? It's just
The whole
vengeance at that point.